you have to change to see change. And I always say sometimes you have to live like most people are not willing to live to be able to someday live like most people cannot live.
Welcome everybody to the Till Death Stop Me podcast, because the inevitable is one day we are going to die. Sounds pretty morbid, right? But you want to know what I think is even more depressing? Merely existing on this planet and not achieving, not going, not experiencing, not meeting, not having every single thing that I've ever wanted in this life. We have one shot to do this thing right. So we might as well experience every single thing we've ever wanted, have every single thing that we've ever wanted, build communities with long-lasting, meaningful relationships. Most importantly, achieve our ideal version of what success looks like to us. So that is why in this podcast, we're gonna be interviewing people that, even against all the odds, have been able to do that and are working constantly every single day to build their ideal lifestyle. So without further ado, thank you for tuning in, guys. Let's get into this episode. I want to welcome Steven Chin to the TDSM podcast today. He is a multiple seven-figure Etsy print-on-demand seller. He's been selling on Etsy for a little over 3 years. He is also the founder of the first ever print-on-demand Etsy personalization automation software called Hello Custom, which we'll dive into more of that later on in this interview. Steven has had to overcome a lot. His story is very interesting, and if you want to talk about tenacity and not letting anything stop you, this is the story that you are going to want to get inspired by, because he had multiple years of entrepreneurial failures, and then once he made it, he lost it all to only then gain it back. So like I said, if you want to talk about tenacity, this is the episode to watch, and this is the guy that you're going to want to learn from. All right, and without further ado, welcome Steven. Welcome. You're my second interview on the Till Death Stop Me podcast.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, you are a super interesting personality, entrepreneur, and I'm just super excited to hear more about your story and share all that value back with our followers. So tell me a little bit more about your early stages of getting into entrepreneurship that then eventually led into, obviously, this world of Etsy.
Yeah, so I've been selling on Etsy for almost 3 years now. I got started back in June of 2020, back during the peak of COVID. So a good friend of mine, Jesse, our mutual friend Jesse, super successful Etsy seller. He told me about the opportunity of selling face masks on Etsy. Back then, I don't think either of us knew about a company called Printify, where you could just farm out the production, as he has a print shop. So he told me what printer to buy, what heat press to buy, where to buy the inventory, and I set up shop on a single black table in my garage. So fortunately, at that time, I already had some experience with selling on Amazon, so I kind of already knew how to do the product research, the market research, the listing creations, to where when everything arrived in the mail, I could just turn on the shop. And I ended up getting like 17 sales my very first day on Etsy, like 30 sales the next day, 60 sales the next day, not like 120, 250, like 500 sales a day by day 5. So I was doing like $5,000 of revenue a day, 5 days after turning my Etsy shop on, which was absolutely crazy. But keep in mind, again, this was not print on demand. This was me in my garage in the dark with a small printer and a small heat press, pressing one mask at a time. I like to joke that I didn't have gray hair before I launched my face mask company. So I ended up working like 16 hours a day for the next 90 days straight. Like, we grew out of my garage. We got into a bigger warehouse. I think we maxed out like 15 employees. We ended up ramping that business like 800 to 1,000 masks a day. Which was absolutely amazing and incredible of a rush. But the day that face mask mandates ended, the day that ended was the day that the business died. We literally went from like 500 sales a day to 5 sales a day overnight. So at that time, we had, a warehouse with like 15 employees, we had equipment, we had inventory, and we had a business that just died. So at that time, we had a newfound love for Etsy and a newfound knowledge for how to sell print products. So at that time, we decided, instead of launching something different, to just rebuild our print shop. So we spent the next year and a half just launching other print products on Etsy, and we were able to grow that business back up to the numbers that we were doing with the face masks. So I made my first $1 million on Etsy selling face masks, leveraging the pandemic. And then I made my next $1.5 million on Etsy selling other print products. So this is all hand printed ourselves. We are print on demand in the definition of we buy everything white. And then when an order comes in, we print the graphic onto the product on the demand of the sell. So we are print on demand, but we don't farm out the production to another company like Printify.
And so in that moment when you're like seeing your sales going from crazy numbers every single day to just then dying off, was it just naturally or intuitive to you to be like, okay, let's go find other things to sell? Or what was like your inspiration to then go find other things that would work? Like, did you even know that like these other products that you wanted to sell were going to work? Or what was like that process of discovering, okay, wait, we can actually do this with other stuff?
Yeah, so I feel like if that was my first business and that was probably my first experience in business, I probably would have been pretty shocked and probably didn't know what to do next. But I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years now, and that was my last 3 years. So I've had 3 years of success, but prior to that was 3 years of failure. So I've tried selling on Etsy, I tried selling on Amazon 3 different times and I failed. I tried, drop shipping on Shopify 3 different times and I failed, like a lead generation agency. Like you name it, I probably tried it and I failed at it for 3 years straight. So when the business died, I kind of had a hardened heart to not a hardened heart, but like to not give up, and that this stuff happens and to just keep trying again, and then the next one can stick, right? So I always had the mentality to not quit. So when that died, I almost there was very little time from okay, we're just going to now do this, and it was just the most organic to just stay on the platform. We already have the equipment, we already have the employees, we already have the warehouse, we already have a shop with thousands of reviews, and this newfound, again, love and knowledge for selling print products. But again, we launched products not necessarily knowing if they would work or not. But again, we had the prior experience on how to do the proper product research, the market research, launch strategies. So that we did our best efforts, and again, it worked, right? We've done over 200,000 sales on Etsy. So what we're doing is working, I guess.
Yeah, and now today you're in the top 100 seller list, right? I believe for Etsy.
I think so. Yeah, so I think there's over 9 million sellers on Etsy. I think I could be wrong, but last time I checked, I think I'm top 100. And then during peak seasons like Christmas, where some of these wedding shops don't do as well, but I have some Christmas products, so they do well during Christmas rush. So during our peak season, sometimes we'll float around top 30 Etsy shop out of 9 million other Etsy shops. So we're definitely one of the top handful.
Okay, so you basically already were once that crash happened, it was oh, well, I've been here before. So the regaining momentum or whatever wasn't even the issue. So let's back up even before that. You said the 3 years of basically eating shit, trying all these different models, right? Let's talk about that. Let's go a little bit back a ways. So what were you doing before entrepreneurship? And then what led you into that e-com realm? I guess it wasn't Etsy first or whatever it was. Go back to that story and then we'll progress from there.
Yeah, so I know that some entrepreneurs they always have that entrepreneurial bug, that itch. I never had that. I was the guy that was you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get a good job, and then you just live a comfortable life. That was the path that I set for myself from a very young age. I think I had a 4.6 average GPA in middle school, really high GPA in high school. Went to college right out of high school, top of my classes. And it wasn't until my senior year in college for mechanical engineering that, again, keep in mind, mechanical engineering is a hard degree to get. And I was also married at the time. I married my high school sweetheart. I also had a full-time job because we had bills to pay. So I was full-time job, full-time college, full-time relationship. I was averaging 1 or 2 all-nighters a week, just to make it all balance. And then I found out that you can make money online doing what you want to do. I had a buddy that used to sleep on our couch, a family friend that was the manager of a McDonald's, post on Facebook that he made $5 million selling t-shirts online back in 2013. And then I had another buddy that was one of our high school dropouts. He was working at the car wash, almost homeless, posting on on Facebook that he just bought a yellow Lamborghini because he launched an Amazon business. And then at this time, this is when our buddy Jesse just launched on Etsy. He's like, yeah, I made $50,000 my first month on Etsy selling a product during a Christmas rush. And I was like, and I'm averaging 1 to 2 all-nighters a week going to college to make $70,000 top. I was like, there's something wrong, right? So it was when I had that realization that like there's other opportunities out here to give me the lifestyle that I want. I started diving into it and I instantly fell in love. I was like, this is what I want to do. I dropped out of college very soon after finding out about building an online business, because I figured like, why spend the next year in college to get a degree that I'm not going to use when I can spend the next year building an online business? I mean, like how hard can it really be? But I had no idea what I was doing. So I instantly went into Amazon naturally first, because at the time that was like the way to make money online was Amazon FBA. I tried that for I think a year and a half across 3 different private label products and I failed. And then the next like trendy way to make money online was drop shipping. So I tried that for the next like 6 months, 3 different shops, and I failed. But again, like I say I failed, but I learned a lot, right? Like probably hundreds of YouTube videos, thousands and thousands of hours. So I'm learning skills, but the business isn't working out, to where when I finally launched my Etsy business, I had like a lot of skills that I was able to therefore apply to this business. And I don't think I would be as successful today if I didn't have those learnings and those trials and errors I've had previously, if that makes sense.
So, but at this point before the Etsy, you had dropped out of college. You weren't working, or you were working? How were you surviving, basically?
Yeah, so I moved back in with in-laws. So I was determined. So I dropped out of college to launch an online business. I did have a job for a minute. Then my wife Destiny got pregnant. We decided to move back to Redding, California, which is where we're from. But I didn't want to get a job. I was like, I'm still going to see this through. We had our baby boy Theo. We were living with our in-laws, and I was like, my back is against the wall. Like I got to just keep launching something until it works, because I knew that it was possible. That like all these people that I know are making it work, but for some reason it's not working for me. So it's only a matter of time, right? I just figured that if I can get a little bit better each day and learn a few more skills with each failed business, eventually something would stick. And when that thing does stick, it would make all of this worth it. Because I always thought that like, if on average 99 out of 100 businesses fail, I was just going to go launch 100 businesses, because when that one sticks, it was going to make the other 99 worth it. So it just took me 13 before the Etsy one stuck.
And that's like a really interesting mindset, because like nowadays, like, you know, I feel like one of the biggest objections is like, you know, we're not back in 2018 or even 2016, right? Where you heard more of those scenarios, like it's just a lot more saturated. But, you know, like that, what you just explained, well, I don't really care. I know that other people are doing it, whether it's saturated or not. Like I'm not going to stop until something sticks. So do you think that the motivating factor at that point was like, you know, I have family to feed, my situation is just so uncomfortable, like I am willing to do anything that it takes to, you know, basically get to this sophomore year of my life? Like those were the core motivating factors. Was there anything else that you could like identify that was another core motivating factor in your why, I would say, to get you to the next point?
Yeah, I would say like my why was definitely like a big contributor to that, and I'm also stubborn. Like I didn't want to be the one that like gave up. So, but it all probably derives down to like family. Like I have a vision in my head of like what I wanted my life to be like with my wife, with my kids. Like I wanted what my lifestyle was, what I wanted my lifestyle to be like, and I just knew that having an online business could give me that lifestyle, that financial, that quality of life that I wanted. It was just like, and I was willing to put in the time to make it work, right? Like I already at this time put in 4 years into college, and I was only like, 2 years into this. So I was like, if I can put 5 years into an engineering degree to make $70,000, why can I not put at least 3 years into trying to build an online business? For the opportunity to make more money, spend more time with my family, and have a way better quality of life for the rest of my life, right? So I was looking at it not for like an immediate gratification. I was thinking more like long-term future, and it allowed me to be more steadfast in the now.
Yeah, and you always mention that, like, if it wasn't for those years of basically consistently eating shit, like it wouldn't have made you such a success, or made all of your, tribulations, or, not tribulations, but your victories like that much more of like a victory. So, you had the fire under your ass, but for anybody that wants to get into this space right now, but maybe doesn't have just as strong of an inner why. Like maybe they already are in their job that they clearly hate, but it's paying their bills, right? Like you didn't have that comfort, and you also have the anxiety of a child that you just brought to this world. So for anyone that doesn't have that extreme of a why at this point, well, they don't think that they have it as an extreme of a why, but they clearly hate what they're doing every day and are exploring this realm, but don't really just have enough fire lit under their ass. What advice would you give them of how to formulate that inner why or make that inner why stronger? Because it's all about emotion and what's going to make you take the most action, right? So what would you tell that person that's just not lit, doesn't have the fire lit strong enough?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I would say that anyone who wants to do it, they have a why, whether they know it or not. And I think there's multiple layers to a why. If you think hey, why do you want to launch an online business? And well, to make a lot of money. I was well, then why do you want to make a lot of money? I was so that way I don't have to work a job. I was okay, then what lifestyle would that give you? So you can probably break it down 10 notches to find the core reason. And it's probably not money. Money's always probably the top. Then you break it down 3 or 4 reasons. And then that will be their true why. And then you find that, and that'll keep you through the dark nights. And then also advice, you have to change to see change, right? So if you're working a 9 to 5, you come home, you play video games, you go to sleep, wake up the next day, and you're not putting in the time, you have to change to see change. And I always say sometimes you have to live most people are not willing to live to be able to someday live most people cannot live. I was willing to, drop out of high school, move in with my in-laws, put in, the work and the grind and the failures and, brushing off my ego. Most people wouldn't do that. But as a result, today I'm able to live a life that most people can't, right? So you have to put in the time. And that's probably the number one advice I can give someone is independent of skill set, independent of the opportunity. If you put enough time into it, success does follow. Success is not biased. It's colorblind. If you put in the time, success will follow.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. So let's fast forward a little bit back to where we were previously, because I don't know why I thought that for some reason you started with print on demand, actually using a print provider, but that makes it even more impressive. So guys, if you don't know or don't understand this model, this print on demand model, the normal model today that people hear about is you're using a print provider like My Designs or Printify or Printful, and they're actually, taking your designs, throwing it on a blank and filling it for you. So that is not what Steven's doing. He's actually not only providing the designs, but he's also the house. So that means he's actually getting the blanks, printing them himself, and then filling it for himself, basically. So that just adds a layer of competitiveness to his business model. And to do that at a really high level, that means that you have to implement a ton of systems into your business. And if we're going to talk to anybody about systems and employee management and strategy around making sure that SOPs are being followed, right? Steven is the guy that we're going to want to talk to. So what would you advise a new seller, even if they were not, being the house and they were using a print provider, right? How would you stress the importance of systems and thinking of your business as an engine, and each part of that business engine systemically at a very early stage of your business career? Would you stress it, or would you say this isn't really important until, X amount of sales or something like that?
Yeah, so I would definitely stress it, but not overthink it, right? So it's one thing, by having a system, if you have a system and you see success, it's repeatable. So the way that I launched masks was the same way that I launched my second product, my third product, my fourth product, my fifth product. It was the same system, and I've been successful in every single product launch. So success can be repeatable if it's a consistent system. So if you're just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks, again, not a system, the random factor, it's harder to be repeatable and harder to scale. I think you might be able to get to 6 figures like that, but I don't think you can go from 6 to 7 figures without having a system. And also you'll find that when you get into, for me, selling print products, there's a lot of repetition in the business. The way that we do our product research, you'll find that when you're doing product research, you're doing the same steps over and over and over again. So you might as well systematize it so that way it makes it easier for yourself. The way that you do your market research is the same. So you might as well systematize it to make it easier for yourself. The way that you launch listings, it's the exact same. The way you do your customer service, there's a lot of repetition, a lot of consistency in that. So I think it's, again, I think it's needed. I wouldn't overthink it, but I think it's just to make your life easier and more repeatable, if that makes sense.
So would you agree that even though, like you said, not stressing it, but thinking about the things that you do on a daily basis, in the back of your mind, be formulating, okay, I just did this. That's an SOP, standard operating procedure, right? Like, let me write that down. Or at what point or KPI in your business would you say this becomes, I guess, more important than not?
Yeah. So the way that I did it was I had everything in my head, but it's hard to when you need to hire a virtual assistant or an employee to train them from your head, right? So I would say again, you need to have it, but I wouldn't overthink it, just know how to do it. But when you go from when you grow to the stage where you need to have an employee or a virtual assistant, even if that's for graphic creation or customer service, or if you are doing fulfillment yourself, that's when SOPs or processes are more important, just to make, again, your life easier to help delegate and train your hires. So I think when you get to that stage of the business, it's a must. But also before that stage in the business, is just always have it in your head and how you do your work, just for the consistency side of it.
Makes sense. And so today, how many employees do you have? How many are you up to today?
Yeah, so it depends on the time of the year. So like right now, it's kind of just a normal season. We have about 6 employees for the print shop. During a Christmas rush, we definitely 10x during a Christmas rush. So we'll get up to about 25 or 30 employees during a Christmas rush. But that's just a seasonal worker.
Wow. And how do you identify, what's one of the first key things that you can identify in somebody that says this person's got it, or this person doesn't got it?
Yeah. So again, this is relevant for me if I'm doing my own production. But they have to be teachable. So that's the only thing I have. I don't care about your background, what you do, your previous experience. Everything that we do is entry level. So because it's entry level, I can teach anyone to do it, but you have to be teachable. So the number one thing that I look up for, and again, if you're looking for VAs or someone to help with anything, you're probably going to end up doing it yourself. Then you're going to know how to do it. And then when you have an employee, you have to teach them how to do it. And they have to be receiving of that knowledge and being able to, again, I think being teachable is probably the number one thing I look for.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move into a big topic of today's interview, which is Hello Custom. So this is a really big market interrupt, I would say. Software that's coming to the table now with being able to automate your personalization process during your print on demand fulfillment. So Steven, tell us a little bit more about this. How did you come to the idea? What's your relationship with the idea? And how are you going to solve the majority of the personalization print on demand problem for people?
Yeah, I'm actually super excited about what we're about to release. So like I mentioned, we've been selling on Etsy for 3 years. I've done over 200,000 sales on Etsy. I'm top 100, peak season top 30. And I owe a lot of my success to selling personalized print products because especially on Etsy, right? Etsy is a unique marketplace where people go to find goods that they can't find anywhere else. And as a result, personalized print products tend to sell better. And it's also a higher barrier to entry that most print product sellers on Etsy are not currently doing. So when you're selling on the same marketplace, selling the same products, probably if you're POD, right, bought from the same price, the same fulfillment times, it's almost hard to stand above your competition beyond your design. So me as a non-graphic designer, the only way that I've been able to stand above the competition with my design is by adding a layer of customization. So it makes the design more unique and it's a higher value proposition to the shopper, if that makes sense. So I owe a lot of my success to personalization, but it's also the biggest pain point in our business. In regards to when an order comes in, we have to manually open up the print file, we have to manually change the details on it, then print it, then send it to production. And there's a defect rate. Sometimes people will put Sarah without an H instead of an H, or Steven with a V instead of a PH. And there's always that human error to the personalization. So I owe a lot of my success to it, but it's also the biggest headache in my current business. So I thought there had to be a way to automate this. There had to be a solution to take the manual side of personalization off of our plate. So I looked to see if there was a way to automatically personalize the graphics when an Etsy order comes in, and there's not. So the pain point was big enough that where I just decided to go build it. So what we ended up doing is we built a software called Hello Custom that uses AI. So where you can connect your Etsy shop, and then if you're a POD, you can connect your Printify shop. And when an order comes in, it will read what the customer wrote, like can the name be Stephen Chin and the date be 2023 for a shirt maybe. It'll take that, it'll recognize Stephen Chin as a name, plug that where the name needs to go, and 2023 as a date, and plug that in where the date needs to go, and dynamically personalize the print file for you. And then for me as an in-house shop, I can download it, and then if you're print on demand, it'll automatically fulfill that on the correct product. So what used to take me 5 minutes to create a new graphic, we can do with the click of a button. What used to also take probably people another 5 minutes to manually fulfill it with Printify, you can do it with the click of a button. So the power behind this is a lot of, I would say 99% of people doing print on demand today on Etsy are not leveraging personalization, even though like I can guarantee you will make more money, have more sales selling personalized products on Etsy. And I think the reason why they're not is because it takes a passive business. Like print on demand is semi-passive once it's built. Like Etsy brings the customers, Printify does the production, you get to share the pie. But you now made that manual. Now when an order comes in, you have to manually personalize it, manually send it to Printify, and then it just makes the business too manual with low margins with print on demand. The margins are about 20-25%. So you can now sell personalized print products, print on demand, and it keeps it semi-automated for you. So I think that's the power right there. So now if you're finding yourself like in a saturated market or like, hey, I'm not getting as many sales as I want, how can I stand above the competition? You can now sell personalized print products, print on demand, automated. So that it's, again, this does not exist. We're rolling it out for the first time ever. And I'm super excited for my own business. I'm super excited for everyone watching this, as now you guys can leverage what I contribute a lot of my success to.
And are you guys live, or are we still signing up on a wait list? Because we're going to obviously have the link to Hello Custom before, but if it's not live yet, when is the live date happening?
Yeah. So if you're watching this video after July 1st of 2023, it's live. So if you're watching it before July 1st, it's still not quite live. It's done, but we're just working out a few bugs. That way, when we give it to you guys, it's flawless. So we're about, at the time we're recording this, we're about 2 weeks out from pushing it live. But again, if you're watching it post July 1st, you guys can go over there, get signed up for free, and then start selling personalized print products on Etsy.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, that just increases your value proposition, increases your competitiveness. If you're going to be doing POD, you have to be offering personalization. And I don't know, this is just so impressive because, again, I mean, are you a technical person? Like you saw a vision for something, you're solving a problem with in a case where like I believe you're not technical either, right? You're not sitting there coding this thing, right?
Nope. Yeah, not at all.
So it's the power of the vision and then doing whatever it takes to get to live. So how long have you been working on this project?
Yeah, so I came up with this idea a year ago. I was on the couch and going through our junk mail, and I saw like a mailer that had my name on it. And I was like, this is personalized, but at scale. So I was like, how are they automating this with mail? And I was like, how come they don't have this for Etsy? So that's kind of where the idea sparked, was going through my mail on my couch a year ago. Since then, I've probably personally put in like over 1,000 hours. We have a dev team of like 6 people who've been working on it for the last 7 months. And then we are about to go live the next few weeks. So yeah, super excited.
All right, guys. Well, the link for that is going to be in the description. Also, we'll put his Instagram. Are you guys you're on YouTube, or Hello Custom have its own channel?
Yeah, but at the time we launch the software, we will have the channel where we launch the Print on Demand Challenge.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll make sure we'll put all those links down below. And finally, Stephen, your last question is, what is one thing that you are never going to stop striving for until death stop you?
That's a good question. So I would say there's probably different answers depending on what part of my life you're focusing on. I would say definitely if it's on my life, being a good husband, being a good dad, being a good friend, being a good person. That's definitely a priority over everything that I do. But in business, I love what I do. And I love, like, again, I went to college to be an engineer because I like building things. I like having that vision, like you mentioned, the vision, and being able to like build something and step back and be like, I built that. Like the software, like I'm using the software now. And it's really cool to be like, this was an idea that I brought to life. Right. So I think I'll just continue to do what I'm doing today, just on other products, just because I really enjoy just building stuff, whether that's physical or software or whatever it is. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And I feel super blessed that I'm able to do that.
So essentially, you're never going to retire.
We'll see. We'll see. Define retire.
You gotta be doing something always. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Stephen, so much. And again, guys, all of the links to everything we talked about today are going to be below this video. So again, thank you, Stephen, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.